19 days. That's how long the script has been written, and I decided that today it would be rewritten. I am Ray Otto, and I want to be a millionaire by the time that I'm 40. However, most people aren't able to curb their spending habits long enough to save the money needed. New TVs, phones, fast food, and the gym memberships you'll ignore when you kick up your feet and watch Netflix. For starters, how about we talk about why I'm so interested in Econ at such an early age? In 1971, Richard Nixon decoupled the US dollar from the gold standard, leading to the actual worth of the dollar to do one of those eagle mating death spirals. In order to stop the value of the dollar from falling further, Henry Kissinger met with the King of Saudi Arabia with a proposal of what has come to be known as the petrodollar system, which is still used by all OPEC countries today. The terms of this agreement were that all oil exports by OPEC nations could be conducted in US dollars. In turn, this ensures a constant demand for dollars, therefore providing stability to our nation. However, Iraq broke the terms of this agreement as Saddam Hussein was stopped by a coalition of Western nations, led by the US, during his invasion of Kuwait in the 90s. So, Hussein started to export oil in euros, yet again proving the instability of the US dollar. This is why cash is indeed trash. It's always subject to change and can lose its value in a crisis. When I turned 17, I asked my mom if she'd help me set up an investment account at Edward Jones. I did this so I could finally put my Dairy Queen money to good use. Initially, I never needed to spend money on anything other than gas, and I'd limit myself to $60 every few weeks, and I managed to stay within that guideline for quite a while. Up until Christmas, that is. Little did I know that my amazing gift-giving ability wasn't sustainable for someone working a little over minimum wage. It turns out I spent around $700 on presents, only to be thrown around the Christmas tree and torn apart like any other in a couple days. One day, I finally met with the financial advisors of Edward Jones. The advisors guided me through setting up an investment account. In addition, they also offered a tailored plan to determine what kind of stocks I'd be interested in and the risks I'm comfortable with making. It required $800 to reach the minimum amount in which I could initially put in. At the end of each month, I allocated $200 from my checks to be invested. Edward Jones is a business, and as such, they need to make money through investments. The advisors mentioned that they'd take a 0.35% of my total invested amount, and they'd eventually scale it back once I had invested over $50,000. I wasn't particularly happy with what I had to hear, but there wasn't much I could do at the time. In total, the time I was employed at Dairy Queen netted me around $5,500. $2,500 landed in my bank account, while $1,800 was put towards my investment account, leaving around $1,200 spent on things like gas, presents, and food. As a baseline, if I were to keep the $1,800 and relent $200 each month, my account would end up with $192,738.25. To get this number, I used the investment calculator to find out how much money I could obtain. I knew I had 22 years to reach the goal line of $1 million, however, I remained short almost $800,000. A portion of the discussion at Edward Jones, which was outlined in their contract, stated that they were required to give me a descriptive quarterly report outlining what amount was invested in certain stocks and the gains or losses associated with that stock. Sometime between January or February, I was poring back over the reports I had previously been given, and I wasn't very enthusiastic with what I saw. The advisors seemingly had only taken a little off the monthly $200 which was being donated, instead of scaling with the total amount inside. Eventually, I put an end to the monthly allotment, and I decided to put the money in a Vanguard account, so I'm able to make a more personal approach to the situation. With that situation being fixed, it's time to turn my sights onto the future. Starting from my senior year, if I work 22 hours a week for every week, I'll shortly amass $17,160. However, I'll only allow myself to spend $2,000, and the rest of the money can be used to buy 5 index funds. If I were to simulate this, I would start by putting $15,000 as my starting value and committing a 3/4 split, most of which should be contributed to my investment funds. However, the only other thing I changed would be the years from 22 to 21. If I keep this at this rate, and I'll manage to submit $250 at the end of each month, I'll have accumulated $311,660.17. I'm still pretty far off from my end goal, and my college years will be filled with traps and lures trying to tempt me to part with my money. However, there are some things that could tempt me, such as a new computer or a Thermaltake Core P8 case and an RTX 3080 Ti. Preceding high school, when I move off to college, my mom's going to sell her house, so I'll be able to take everything with me since I won't have anywhere else to crash. My mom also plans to give a portion to her children. The land spans about 10 acres, including a hill and runoff from Old Woman's Creek. The estimated pricing was about $750,000, and $50,000 of that is mine. This is a hefty sum, and not to be overlooked. So, accounting this into the equation, I would start with a beginning sum of $65,000, contributing $310 at the end of each month. This will lead me to end up with $729,830.21. Not quite my original goal, but we're getting there. My dream is to go to college out of state, major in civil engineering while simultaneously getting my major in business. This will take 4 years to complete, but it'll concurrently manage to drain my bank accounts. Something I could do to save money is achieve financial independence. To cut down on the cost of college, currently, with the options that are in front of me, I'm researching more in-depthly in which college I'd like to attend. To accomplish this goal, I'd like to prove financial independence with whichever state I may pursue my career. This requires about a year or so of living in that state and paying all your bills on your own. Now, time for some math. My options are Full Sail University, which has a yearly rate of $25,820, the University of Nevada, Reno. In-state tuition there costs $8,366, and out-of-state would cost $24,020. In Texas State University, the in-state tuition is $10,855, and the out-of-state tuition is $22,307. Up in Portland State University, the in-state tuition there costs $10,112, and the out-of-state is $29,001. However, I would like to preface this by stating that this isn't including any financial aid or scholarships that may come with the college. On top of that, I would also have to pay the cost of living, which can vary from state to state. Living in an apartment isn't very luxurious, but it's temporary and cheap, so that's exactly what I'm looking for. To calculate this, I'll choose the average price of living and divide it if I choose to have a roommate. The average cost of living in Nevada is $1,107 a month, or $553 with a roommate. It has an average wage of $18.56 an hour. Texas has a monthly cost of living at $1,045 or $522 with a roommate, and an average wage of $19 an hour. And at the bottom of the list, Oregon has a monthly cost of $1,110 or $555 with a roommate, and the average wage of $14 an hour. So, for a year of living on my own, not having to go to school, I'll be working 24 hours a week, so that grants me a grand total of $445.44 a week in Nevada, $456 a week in Texas, and in Oregon only $336 a week. Although the cost of living encapsulates the cost of supplies like water, food, and electricity, there are also the need for college textbooks, which are changed every year or so that they can steal more money out of your pockets like an orphan off the streets of London. But I'm not okay with that, and technology is advancing and constantly coming up with cheaper solutions to the problems, and books are just for nerds. That is why I'll be using various websites from nonprofit organizations to get my college textbooks, as well as the fact that meager amounts of food can be rationed out or stretched over the course of a week, and there's not much to worry about unless it's an emergency, or I'm just feeling too cheap to buy another cup of instant noodles. I'll only be making small amounts of profits here and there, but it's something, and it also saves me money when I finally achieve in-state tuition. I'll also be working my way through college, so I won't have any debt or need to take out loans. I'll spend my time getting acquainted with the people around campus, and use the time to fuel my plans of becoming an entrepreneur. If I find 19 people, specifically 2 accountants, 5 biology students, 5 chemistry students, 5 microbiologists, and 2 business students, I can convince them to take a loan of $50,000 and use that money to begin working on an insulin company. The initial cost is around $949,000, leaving a little over $50,000 to be used as a bank or finding employees. At this scale, it's estimated that around 13,000 people with diabetes could be served and only be charged a rate of $1 per vial. Due to the ownership of the company being split 20 different ways, it only allows me to keep 5% of the profits. A plan to combat this is buying them out and taking a bigger share for myself. To make more money from the business, we could also open up to the stock market and use that money to expand. One thing I have not incorporated into this equation is my change in occupation. I'll be working the average menial job until I graduate with my degree. I'll graduate in 2028, meaning that in 4 years I'll have accumulated $106,806.63 in my already invested money. If I use my degree, I can start with a yearly wage of $60,741 or $21 an hour, meaning I can throw $350 in my investment fund rather than just $200. By the time I'm 40, I'll have accumulated $842,517.95. This doesn't include revenue from my business or other shareholders and the fact that I'll be debt-free or possible promotions from my job. With the rest of this factored in, I do believe that I can attain $1 million by the age of 40.